Lisa? No movement?
Oh, yeah, I guess not. So if you want to be.
Max, could you run the camera?
I mean, I can.
I think it's just set to,
You want me to?
you know, just to check it once in a while, Max, that would be fantastic.
I'll put it right on
Hey,
you.
Mr. Crandall, am I 10th and pick 24th?
I don't know.
I don't know if it's the bold one or the unbold. Huh? I'll say 10.
Repeat.
10 and 21.
What did she go?
Do you think you're scared of your feet?
No. I don't know if she does or she doesn't, maybe she does. There wasn't, because she came in last. Yeah. Put her name on the top.
We'll find out.
We'll find out.
I'm talking about this.
All right. We will convene the business session of the Port Edward Public Schools Board of Education. First item of business is conduct reorganization of the board. First one is to elect president. I will turn it over to you to call for nominations.
Call for nominations for president for the next year for the Port Edward School District Board. Are there any nominations?
I nominate John Dobbin.
John has been nominated. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is made and second to nominate John for another term as president. Are there any other nominations? Any other nominations? Any other nominations? Hearing none, a motion to close nominations.
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Motion's been, did I hear
Yeah,
something?
there's
A motion's been made and second to close the nominations. Can we just make this a declaration, or what's the protocol for
You
that?
just call for the vote. Yeah. Make it simple, just call
Okay.
for
All right. All those in favor of John remaining as president for another term, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. John, you're back in the catbird seat.
All right, next item is to elect vice president of the board. Are there any nominations for vice president?
I nominate Leo Thomas Guard.
I will second it.
A nomination and a second. Any other nominations? Third time, any other nominations? Hearing none. We'll go to a vote. All those in favor of Leo, vice president of the board, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Leo is vice president. Next item is elect clerk of the board. Are there any nominations for clerk?
I nominate Gary Hildebrand.
Second.
Nomination and a second for Carrie Hildebrand, clerk. Any other nominations? Any other nominations for clerk? Hearing none. Take a vote. All those in favor of the nomination for Carrie Hildebrand as clerk, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, say nay. Motion carried. Carrie is clerk. Next item is elect treasurer of the board. Any nominations for treasurer?
I nominate Kathy McGrath. Second.
Nomination and a second for Kathy for treasurer. Any other nominations? Any other nominations for treasurer? Hearing none, we'll go to a vote. All those in favor of Kathy as treasurer of the board, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Motion carried. Kathy is the treasurer of the board.
There's always a little truth in things.
Yeah, you don't trust her with money. That's true. Buy more puppets.
Next item on the agenda is number 5, report from student representatives and student recognition.
So, we've got three of our student council members here tonight, but before they start, I would just give recognition to all of the students last night who participated in our Pops concert. It was a great concert. It was well attended by the community, by the parents. It will be one of the most memorable concerts that I can think of in some years. So, great job to our students who were in that concert last night. And with that, then I will turn it over to our student representatives.
All right, my name is Carson Parks. I'm a sophomore. I'm in student council, FBLA, law enforcement, drama, probably more clubs, but I'm kind of forgetting. And I'm also in some sports. I'm in golf, basketball, and cross country. In the summer, I work at Sand Valley as a caddy, and I plan to attend a four-year university in the future. First up on my list is state forensics. We had quite the crew go to state this year. Derek Coates went. He had he received a gold medal with a perfect score of 25. Julia Pfefferkorn and Desiree Rogers wrote and performed their own original piece and received a silver medal. And then the group of Natalie Mock, Maggie Searles, and Molly McCarthy also earned silver, so that was pretty good. Prom, we had a really good turnout. Derek Coates and Molly McCarthy won King and Queen. We had that dance at the Elks Club, so thank you to them for letting us in there. It was a great night, full of good music. And spring sports. So we have baseball. They have 14 guys up for the team this year. It's been a pretty good season so far, finally outside, so that's good. And big doubleheader tomorrow versus Tri-County. Then softball, there's 13 girls. They're 2-8. They have 5 upcoming games in the next 3 days, playoffs after that. They're coming off a big win when they scored 42 runs, so that's pretty insane. Then we have track. They have 15 athletes. They had a meet at Wittenberg recently. A lot of medalists there. And conference is coming up next week for them. Then golf. It's our first year of that. We have two players so far, with more showing interest, so that's pretty good. Right now, I'm ranked 10th in conference, and Blake, our other golfer, is ranked 24th. So we're doing pretty good. We're both in the top half. If I stay in 10th, we can get a second team all-conference placement. So that would be pretty good for our first year there. Then I'll hand it over to them.
My name is Tang. I'm a sophomore. The activities that I am in are student council, drama, ecology club, Skills USA, and volleyball. In the summer, my family does farmers market. For the future, I plan to go to a four-year university. The variety show is coming up on Friday, May 24th, along with the FBLA Drive event. That event, they're having a brat fry. State solo ensemble was Saturday, May 4th. Megan Shields got a first on her musical theater performance and second on her classical solo. Derek Coates earned a first on both musical theater and solo performance. Yesterday, Tuesday, May 7th, the middle school and high school held a concert in the big gym. The crowd really liked the concert. That was shown by the standing ovation at the end. My name is Shang Tang. I am a sophomore. The activities I participate in are volleyball, student council, ecology club, drama club, and Skills USA. In the future, I plan to continue my education and go to a four-year university. On April 18th, we celebrated Earth Day. We had a keynote speaker, Bloomberg, who spoke to us about how many people are disconnected with nature. Students got to choose 2 educational speakers to go to. After, they were able to participate in the wellness sessions, yoga or a self-defense session. For lunch, students were given a local food lunch. Senior dessert awards and scholarship night is on Wednesday, May 22nd at 6:30. Graduation will be held on Sunday, June 2nd.
questions for the kids?
Noticed commenting back in Kyle's and me, thank Mrs. P for definitely putting that performance together last night. She headed it up and put quite an event on at the end too, so you guys that were involved in that last night too. So.
I wasn't there, but I saw the video on Facebook and it just gave me goosebumps listening to that last song. It was awesome.
I think the big gym has definitely been nice having it also on those last concerts.
All right, you're free to leave, so desire.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up is President's Report. All board members are in attendance. Our next board meeting, is this right? Monday, June 12th? Should be Wednesday.
Wednesday,
June
June
12th.
Oh,
Yeah,
sure,
Wednesday, June 12th. And our July meeting, we're gonna push back to July 17th.
If that is amenable to everyone, yes.
Yeah.
Very much. Appreciate that.
July 17th.
Yeah, July 17th. All right, and next item is a proclamation for School Lunch Hero Day. Just read the proclamation from the Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction. Whereas school nutrition employees provide nutritious, well-balanced, reasonably priced meals to more than 485,000 Wisconsin school children each day. And whereas meals prepared and served by school nutrition employees may significantly enhance the student learning environments, allowing children to concentrate on graduating with the skills and knowledge they need to be successful in the workplace or towards further studies, the primary goal of every child to graduate college and career ready. And whereas school nutrition employees creatively nurture partnerships with parents, teachers, community groups, and governmental personnel to promote the nutritional values of their programs. And whereas school nutrition employees provide a caring, respectful school food service environment, therefore be it resolved that May 3rd, 2019 be proclaimed as School Lunch Hero Day, a day to celebrate the importance of the professional staff that helps keep students nourished so they can learn. And we did something for our...
Well, we actually got the proclamation after the day. So this week is Teacher Appreciation Week. So we've typically tried to do some nice, small things for the teaching, not only the teaching staff, but all staff throughout the week. So we'll be including make sure the food service folks get a bit of extra kudos at some point as well. Show some appreciation for all that they do. So
Yep.
we kind of have viewed it like all of our staff are teachers at some point. So.
All right, moving on, number 7, administrative reports. Report on graduation.
Well, the student report, still a lot of my thunder. So, senior dessert, yes, is coming up on Wednesday, May 22nd, and you are certainly invited to attend that. It's our scholarship and recognition night. And then graduation on Sunday, June 2nd at 2 p.m. in the big gym. I would ask just a bit of assistance in ahead of time, in the sense that for those board members who are going to plan on attending, we would need you there 10 minutes early, kind of at the latest, so that we are prepared and ready to walk in right at the hand strikes 2 on the clock. The other thing I would need to know is what board members plan on attending graduation. Looks like that will be everybody plans on attending. Okay. And that's really, in terms of, it's a short report this month. We've got some other items later on that I'll certainly talk to, but in the sense of reports, that's that.
All right, thank you, Kyle. Number 8, questions and comments from people in attendance. I have 2 people signed up to address the board. First one, I think, is Donna. Did you sign up, Donna?
I did.
Yes.
I'm looking at where my number is.
I was here before you.
No.
Yeah. I went from top to bottom.
You
Oh,
said-
okay.
you said-
I'll go even higher next time.
You said respectfully, 16. Just want to, I know we visited this last spring. I just want to revisit it. I saw it on here. I don't know where you're going, what you're talking about, but I'm in the middle of middle school softball. Got a huge number out, softball, baseball. I think our flux right now, you know how sports go, I think our flux right now is big and it's coming. You know, like we've got, I think we had 18 sign up, maybe we have 17 playing most of the time in softball, and I think they have 15, 16 in the baseball. This week we played 3 games, last week we played 2, next week we played 4 or 3, and so I'm living it right now, and I'm seeing that, this is, I think, gonna be like a foundation. When I look at the high school, no offense, I think they missed some of those. Girls joined late in the year. We've got just one senior. Some of them never played ball till they were a junior. And so I'm telling you that I think the foundation is so important. I'm kind of struggling though because we're not affiliated with school. Parents are confused. We have trouble getting umps because most of the districts that we talk to now, Pittsville, Rochelle, a whole bunch of places, are moving towards some connection with school. So they don't know who to contact, if it's PBA or me or our athletic director. And so there's, lack of communication, for a better word, because everybody's like starting up programs. They buy their own uniform, but I'm having trouble getting umps because we're not affiliated with school. Doing the field, I just gotta get volunteers in the middle of the day. So I think if we build the sports that we have, I think it's really important to build that foundation. And we do it in every other sport. Fall, we do it for volleyball and football, we do it for boys basketball and girls basketball, and I'm not sure why or whatever happened to it, but not softball and baseball in the spring. So like when we had our parent meeting, a lot of parents are really confused. So I just, in a lot of districts around us are going towards that. So if we're looking at adding or whatever we're looking at, I hope you consider that. I think we've got huge interest and talent coming up and a good program coming up. So I hope we can complement the high school and do some justice to, their program right now. You always lose lack of interest in, they figure out where they want to do a freshman, sophomore year. But right now the numbers are huge. And I meant not just making life easier for me, but just for the kids, the parents, continuity, and I think I'd asked some other schools, and I think Justin could help you. Like Rochelle built their program this year, and they didn't buy everything new, for expense, but just to start out small, helping and organizing has been extremely helpful to them. So if you're going to talk about that, please consider that to some extent.
So is this for 7th and 8th graders, Donna?
It is. It is.
And you said 15 girls?
I have 18.
18.
Um,
But it's not affiliated with the school district at all?
right now, no.
So are you a volunteer coach?
So I take personal time,
Okay.
which doesn't bother me at all. I take personal time because I have personal time to leave at about 3 or 5 to 3 or whatever. And then we have to get parents to drive them. And they buy their own equipment, and PBA works with us a little bit, and then I get volunteers to do the here. But like it's really hard to get umps because they can be hired out by Pacelli or Plainfield or Rochelle, and they'll go there where, we can't afford or we don't have connections or, yeah.
Has there ever been junior high softball for girls? No.
No.
have it, okay, but not through the district.
And I don't know that the numbers were ever so big in the programs. It used to be, so let me back up, because I coached little 10 and 12s. That's summer league,
Right.
so this is just
The first year
starting.
for any junior high softball during school.
Yeah.
In baseball, they have a little bit of junior high.
No,
Or-
it's their
or-
been
or-
softball.
It's probably about the fourth,
Yeah,
fifth
couple
For a
year.
couple years.
Okay,
Yep.
it is.
And we don't need everything to begin with. Maybe we start small like the other districts. I've made contacts to them and talked to the coaches and stuff, but, they praise like, oh, certainly better to have that connection. Like we beg everybody or email anybody, hello, so it's hard. And like I said, the parents don't understand, because they're used to like football or volleyball, getting on a bus or van or whatever and transporting, and
So how do your kids get
Oh,
transferred?
parents,
Okay.
if we can get them. So,
So I would just say that we probably have to contact some of our similar conference districts and see how they're doing that. At least in the meetings I've attended, there's not really been any discussion of that on like the
I
conference
have.
level. Well, like
Just-
in the principal meeting, superintendent
oh, yeah,
meetings.
yeah.
That really hasn't been brought up as a conference item to a large degree at those meetings, but I could do some surveying. I do know some of the school districts, like Nakusa, funds theirs, kind of operates it as a separate organization. They operate it, it's kind of school affiliated, it's kind of not, but they do that with all junior high sports. So theirs is even a more unique than that.
So we are playing people in our conference, though, and those are the people
Yeah.
I'm reaching out to. Pittsville, Rothschild, Plainfield, Rapids, oh my gosh, I can't think of everyone, but yeah. Thanks for
Thank you.
listening.
And Justin?
Well, I wasn't gonna talk about that, but I'll add on a little bit, just because we had an AD meeting today. Rochelle went to it, Shelley already has it. And I talked to them, you know, they had like a $6,500 budget to start for both. And then when I really thought about it, we could do it. I thought about how we do our spring sports for our middle school, and it's a tough deal because we have these sports at the high school, but we don't really help them out at the middle school level. And I thought, you know, we only have 4 or 5 middle school track meets, and that's kind of what we've always wanted to keep it at. We don't want a huge season, right? So I think we could move middle school track, those 4 or 5 meets, we could get it done in the month of April, okay? And then I think we could do this middle school softball, baseball team in the month of May when the weather's good. There's not as much inconsistency with getting outside. You don't have to worry about, you know, indoor practices, stuff like that. And I think between PIBA and the Booster Club, I think we could do it for a pretty minimal cost. Because I think Donna was right. There's a lot of confusion when it comes to this program in terms of Stacy's getting calls at school. What time do the kids get out? Well, the kids don't get out. This isn't a school sport. And, you know, it's always been you know, we all know, you know, Ben and Kyle, I try to help them out with scheduling just because I have the contacts, but it's not a school sport. I can't spend any time working on it, you know what I mean? We can't put it on our school site so people know that, yeah, we have middle school softball at such and such time because it's not our sport. You know, I think to help out our own programs, I think it would probably be a good thing to look at. I think if the amount of resources we have to spend on getting it started would be a lot less than you would think, because I think we would have that help from the Booster Club or PIBA. And I think, you know, I think with some of our coaching positions, especially at the middle school level, and especially if we're gonna knock it down to a month, it doesn't have to be the huge contract that our regular contracts are. It's not a full season. So maybe instead of a $1,500 full middle school season contract, maybe it's $600-700, and we can spread that out over softball, baseball, track. You know what I mean? So I think it's something that maybe future-wise, I know Kyle and I have talked about it 100 times, but something that we could talk about.
Because the gear, they probably would have the gear. I mean, middle school has gear already, so we're not buying.
And that's, when I was talking to Rochelle, that's where a lot of their startup was. It was all equipment. I mean, baseball's kind of a heavy equipment sport. And we kind of got a leg up on that. We have the $300 bats already because they bought them already. We have the $300 set of equipment, they have it. So, you know, honestly, we're talking transportation and some umpires. And at a lower level, it doesn't have to be the high $80 a game type umpire. You know, if we threw $50 at some of our local people, I think we could do it for a pretty decent price. So, that's kind of my 2 cents on that. I did not plan on talking about that. That's not why I signed up, so I'm sorry you're gonna hear me a lot more than you probably want to. Second part, what I was gonna talk about is golf. Carson already talked about it. Well, first of all, surprise, we have golf. I want to tell you a little bit about it and kind of how it's gone so far and what I think moving forward, because I'm seeing number 16 and I'm not sure if that's referring to golf, but I haven't heard anything about any other sports, so I'm thinking it is. Golf, it's a 5-person team, okay? So you can take 5 people to an event, only the top 4 scores count. So I could take the whole board, you guys would all play, but only Ben's score wouldn't count because it's the highest. Okay. Now, just like when we talked about this a year ago, it doesn't have to be the full team for us to participate. Like Carson talked about, Carson, if he plays decent next week, he's probably going to be all conference golf. Our other kid that went out, Blake, he's going to be in the top half of every meet he's shot so far. So, you know, this whole thing had kind of started out of whatever. We thought we only had one. Well, then we got two, and I'll be real honest with you. I've had 3 or 4 inquiries already talking about next year. Well, I guess I'm not sure there is a next year, but I just wanted to tell you what they're doing. You know, each event, it's $100 for a team. So compare that to basketball where you need 3 refs or the workers, minimal, okay? But for us, since we don't have a full team, it's only $20 a person, okay? So the cost is minimal. We have an unpaid head coach, that's me, okay? And we take bus, or I'm sorry, we take a van. So there is no busing fee. That's the highlight, no bus. So, you know, the cost is minimal. It really is.
And are these meets on, what, are they on Saturdays? Or?
No, they're during the week.
Okay.
So
school days?
Yep, they're school days and they miss most of the day. And I'll be real honest with you, if I was going pro-con, that's the biggest con for me, is you're missing an entire day of school, okay? Now, having said that, all these other teams and conferences and schools have agreed, but it's important enough to have, they do it too. Now, I'll tell you what we did with our 2 golfers, and Carson can attest to it, maybe, no, he left.
He's here.
We had an agreement amongst the 3 of us that our expectation of grades was going to be higher than what we require out of the handbook or the code of conduct. If you had below a C-, you weren't going to a golf event because you're missing a school day. And then if you're not up to your work and you don't have everything up to date, you shouldn't be going and missing a whole school day. Positives, I'll tell you right now, and it's a 2-person team, so you can figure it out quick, but I already talked to him, he said it's okay to bring up the example. One of our players, he had some attendance issues before golf started. And now since golf has started, we have 2 meets a week, he's there every day. He's there every day. It's just like a lot of other sports. Sports get them in the door. They're there. So that's, to me, one of the pros. What I think is really amazing is how well the kids are doing right away. But what I really get a kick out of is we started out with 1, let's be honest. This was for 1, okay? Just having that kid in class, we got a second one. We had our usual cameraman, he's come and practiced with us a couple times. He loves it, okay? And like I said, we have 3 or 4 other people that said, that might be for me. But it was kind of too late and it wasn't, I feel like it wasn't publicized maybe the way it should have been because we were kind of in an in-between awkward state. Is it happening, is it not, whatever, for whatever reasons. But I think we can actually do this. And I think we can do it if we all kind of work together and talk about it for a pretty minimal price. I don't know if price is an issue. I don't know if the school time's an issue. I see both of them. I would have answers for questions you have for both of them. But I just think that if it was important enough to start, we should probably give it a little bit of an opportunity to kind of run its course. You know, if you told me that you want to evaluate where we're at in 2 years and we still got 2 kids, I'd say, yeah, maybe golf isn't really for us. But our enrollment's going up, as you all know, which means we're going to have more bodies in the seats, which means there's going to be more opportunities for kids to do stuff. We need them to do stuff. And you guys saw our participation numbers. Our fall and spring numbers are awesome. If over 42% of our kids are playing sports, that's awesome. You know, and if we offer golf and they can get 4 or 5 more of those kids, now we're getting close to 50%, depending on obviously the enrollment. So I know it wasn't publicized, it wasn't something that, hey, all right, we got it, but now that we have it, I think we should give it a little bit of a chance to run its course, you know. I was here talking to all you guys a year ago. I said I don't think we should have a golf co-op. If you asked me today, I would say we shouldn't have a golf co-op. If you asked me 2 months ago, I'd say we shouldn't have a golf team. But now we have it. We've had some success. Kids are talking about it, and I think it's something that might be able to work for us. You know, I'm not the village historian, but we've had golf before. So
You keep saying not getting started. How did it get started? Did you put a sign-up sheet, or how did it get started?
word of mouth, really. You know, it kind of crept up on us because the Costa Rica trip, and really our only golfer to start was Carson. And, you know, he started practicing and people would see us and go, what's going on? And then we kind of, you know, we see each other in the halls and we see each other at lunch, and more people got to know about it, and that's kind of how we got Andrew to come and practice with us. And, you know, like I said, I was against this, but I'm kind of invested in it at this point. You know, I had to go out and get the schedule. I had to go out and communicate with a golf course. They let us come and practice there for free. I mean, that's great community relations between us and Bullseye, you know. And I'm at all the events. And like I said, you know, not that I'm the only one in this room, but I don't get paid anything for that, you know. I miss all my daughter's gymnastics stuff on Mondays. You know, I'm invested in this too. So I think we kind of got to give it a little bit of a shot. You know, if we get 4 or 5 next year, our numbers are pretty comparable for another spring sport that we have. You know, I don't want to take away anything at this point. I think we should probably just, you know, see where we're at and see if we can continue to build on these things. So my 2 cents, questions, whatever, but that's kind of where we're at with golf, just so you know.
How many meets did you have?
Well, I think we were supposed to have 10, and that's including the regionals and sectionals. 1 got rained out, so I think we're at 9. So we've got 2 next week, and then regionals and sectionals, so only 4 left.
What's the cost on each one?
So each one, well, they're not all cost. Like our conference matches are either 100 a team or 20 a person. So what we've had to pay for every meet we've gone to so far is $40. $40. The one exception is, and I don't know if anybody here is golfers, but we got to play 2 weeks ago at Whistling Straits, which is one of the nicest courses in the state of Wisconsin / Midwest. They have major PGA Tour events there. The kids, we had to pay $29 for them. And it's a once in a lifetime. You know it's a big deal when you see the golf coaches, they're all taking pictures on all the holes, and you go, this is kind of a big deal, you know? So I wish I would have been recording it, because we were driving home in the van, and those 2 kids talking about it, it was just, they were on cloud 9. You know, they had such a good time. They played pretty well. But that's the only one that's been higher so far. It's $29. So we haven't paid over $30 for a meet.
And you are a volunteer coach.
I am.
So we're not paying you for that, but
You're not.
you're paying a sub probably to
correct.
take your place when
Yep.
you're not there. Okay.
Yep. And that's kind of where I said, you know, if this is something we want to look for going forward, I don't know what the head coach pay would be. We can finagle it. We can make it work, you know. If part of that has to be the sub fee, I get it, you know. So flexible, I think. Kind of like the middle school situation. So I think we can work it out.
The equipment needed?
Nope. This year I brought a lot of my own stuff. I'm a kind of a golf head, but I had a golf net. We used that when we had this beautiful Wisconsin spring. I have an indoor simulator that we hook up to my laptop. The only thing we've bought through the school is a $75 mat, which we hit off of, and then a $25 set of chipping nets. So that's it. And moving forward, I mean, unless we got really big and needed more of those things, that's about it. You know, I ask these other schools what they kind of use their budget money on, and it's honestly just golf balls. They give their kids golf balls. We don't, but that's not a huge deal. So the budget itself could be pretty minimal.
All right. Anyone else wish?
Is that for female and male?
Yeah, so that's, I'm
Yes.
sorry, that is the other thing. If you, like in our situation, we don't offer girls golf, so girls can play on our golf team.
They go the same.
They go to the same meet, so you know about golf. Men or boys will play on the white tees, women will play on the girls' tees, or on the red tees, which is, you know, a considerable distance farther forward, but all the scores are then even. So there's a couple girls on the Marion team, there's a couple on the Pacelli team, and, you know, it's not a huge deal. I think, you know, one of the, and I'm sorry, I stopped, but one of the biggest things that I have seen from golf, and I've coached a lot of sports, the interaction amongst the players. Like these guys, you know, when you play basketball, you play football, you're my arch rival, we're not really buddies. These guys are all talking to each other. On the ride home the other day, they have a chat group that they're all in on Snapchat. I mean, they're giggling like schoolgirls. And it's all about it's all with those other teams. So, you know, ideally, they're making connections that maybe they're gonna have, you know, maybe that's a future college roommate, you know, stuff like that. So, yeah. Okay, I'm done.
All right, thank you.
Did you want to
Yeah,
comment?
well, can I,
you
so
said
what
that-
happens when you
Yeah.
get a golfer that doesn't have equipment?
We could make that work. You know, if we had, okay, so if you said Justin Beck doesn't have golf gear, I would say, okay, well, the first thing I would say is I have 2 sets at my house, I have 2 bags, I could bring him, and those are now Justin Beck's this year. Believe it or not, and it's not nice stuff, we have 50 or 60 golf clubs in the basement at school. They're not great, they're not great at all, I've used them for my FIAD classes, but it could get through. But if we had, you know, 2, 3, I think we could make it work. Yeah, we can make that work.
All right, thank you. Moving on to the consent agenda. Number 9, consider approval of minutes of the past meeting, April 10th, 2019.
So moved. Second.
A motion and a second, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Minutes are approved. Number 10, consider approval of financial reports. And there's, yes.
I have also budget revisions again. There is a budget revision made to move a budget line from the elementary location code to the district code. And I also did a revision to Fund 21 again to reflect donations from April. We have a couple gifts. Roberta Morel purchased a plaque for the Cliff Morel Memorial Scholarship, or award, I should say. So that was brought to school, so whoever received that award, their name will go on that. And Corey Searles donated a kettle drum that was given to the music department.
Thanks for all those gifts. With that, seek a motion to approve the financial reports.
So moved.
Second?
A motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion carried. There is no unfinished business this month, so we move on to new business. Number 11, consider approval of health insurance plan for 2019-20.
I would recommend your approval of Security Health as our health insurance carrier. Security Health was able to give us a 0% increase, so no increase on our premium, and do so without changing plan design as well. So no change in plan design, and they were able to give us a 0. We did do some comparison shopping this year, but all of the other plans to a certain degree required either our staff changing where they were doctoring or change in plan design. And I think with 0 and having stability, this would be our first real year of stability since I've been in the district, so even prior to my time as district administrator in terms of rate increases and whatnot. So I'd recommend we approve Security Health.
Has there ever been a 0%?
And not at least in our few
Not in
years.
our,
Yeah,
I don't think
yeah.
in my lifetime or what.
So,
So that's pretty awesome.
All right, seek a motion to approve the security health.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Kathy, seconded by Leo.
Carried.
Carried. Okay.
Not that it matters. Yeah, but you-
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, say nay. Motion carried. Moving on to number 12, consider approval of 2019-2020 support staffing plan.
I am going to recuse myself from voting or commenting on this one. And get a cup of coffee.
So I would recommend your approval of our support staffing plan. There are no major changes on that plan. All of those positions, with the exception of really the pupil services secretary position, remain at their current levels. That position just increases by a quarter hour a day, so 1/4 hour a day. And that really reflects our increase in number of students in special education programs. The only other change on that would be removing the school nurse from that plan and going on an hourly basis. That's like an hourly contractual basis. Again, no benefits attached to that or anything, but just simplifying that how the school nurse is contracted.
Seek a motion to approve support staffing plan as discussed.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Kathy, seconded by Ben. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carried. Next item is consider approval of non-resident pupils 2019-2020 school year open enrollment application.
I would recommend the approvals and denials as are in your board packet. In terms of our open enrollment applications, we had a fairly sizable incoming group, as you can see, and of course there are certainly always some students on the out list as well. For the most part, the majority of the students heading out are not currently attending, and so some of those students we have had no experience with. And again, we've reviewed the incoming applications, and again, ask your approvals and denials, and those are based on the policy that we have in place and state law.
So when people apply that are in the district now to leave the district, do they write the reason why they are, or is that?
No, not necessarily.
We can just open and no application filling out?
Yeah, and we don't, so that's all online through the state of Wisconsin. So we get that they applied, so that's the information we get. Now, the other piece of this is, they can open enroll to up to they can open enroll to 2 districts if they want, and none of it's binding until registration in the fall, in reality. So, so even the students we enroll now or say can be open enrolled. There's nothing binding that they would come to us, and again, as same with our outgoing, nothing binding that they are outgoing.
So they don't come with history if they've been kicked, I mean, does that come if they've been
That
kicked out?
does come in, that's how any denials, there's certain reasons that we might recommend a denial. Some might be programming that we're unable, programming that we don't offer, I shouldn't say it that way. It would be similar to like our staffing issues that we've had in the past, where we haven't had, we don't have a split section of 6th grade in the past, so we limited open enrollment so that we wouldn't overwhelm the staff. And that's really, anything that's on there is kind of related to a staffing issue. Would it overwhelm the staff that we currently have? As well as, again, it could be a behavior issue. So, and again, those things come to us, and those are the legal reasons for denial, and really our only, by state law, our only legal reasons, so.
Thank you.
Are we getting, it looks like we're getting some siblings of students that have already enrolled here.
Yes, that may be a possibility.
But some new ones, some
Yep.
new people
Oh, yeah.
altogether.
Yep.
That's a big list of people.
Is there any developing trend in general enrollment within the district that would pair with this, or
Well, it's still, enrollment,
have we seen any leveling,
Uh,
or increase or decrease in projections for next year?
I believe that we're still, I don't know that we're in the quite as aggressive growth that
Okay.
we've seen the last 3 years.
Okay.
I would expect that's gonna level. However, the open enrollment applications, certainly indicate that there's still some potential for growth. And we still know that there are some, home sales are still happening in the district, and some of those positive signs are there. So it wouldn't be, I wouldn't say it's out of the question that we could continue to see a positive growth next year. But I would expect also that we'll slow that growth down. So,
All right, seek a motion to approve the 1920 school year open enrollment application.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second.
I would caution, are you gonna do denials as a separate? So, I would say, if you're saying approvals, there are some recommended denials in that, and so,
Or we could do one altogether and do
you could,
approvals and denials,
approvals and denials.
as presented in our board packet. Approvals and denials.
So moved.
Yeah.
Second.
And second, okay. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion carried. Moving on to 14, consider approval of 2019-2020 lunch, breakfast, and milk prices.
So there is a recommendation that we continue to inch up our lunch and milk prices. This year with our positive balance, it's not a mandatory increase, and but I would caution this. The positive balance date was actually January 1, so it's not a given that we're gonna have a positive balance come the last day of school. So if we don't have a positive balance, what happens then is we move money out of Fund 10 into food service. We do a transfer from our Fund 10 to our Fund 50, and you know, the food service is working really hard to make sure that they have that positive balance, but there are limits to how much they can do with that, and some of it is really based on pricing. What does happen if we carry a positive balance, just so that you know, we do use that the very next year to offset any negative, first and foremost. So if we were to have a negative, if there's a positive forward balance, we can offset it for the next year. The other thing we do, the last year, we purchased equipment very specific to food service out of the food service fund. There's been a bunch of years where we really haven't been able to make a major equipment purchase, and
They've been in the red
They've-
since last
yeah,
year or before.
yeah, so it's been just a couple of years where we've, you know, been able to use the food service budget to actually replace equipment and do some of those things. So the price increase is really limited as well. We can't be raising it at all other. There's limits to what we could raise it. That's why it's a 10-cent increase on that. So,
But no change in milk.
no, yeah, they're not recommending a change based on our milk at this point, so.
Are we in, so other schools, are we pretty much in line, school lunch prices
Yeah.
and stuff?
Yeah, very much. Actually, we are behind, we're still actually behind what's recommended by the USDA. So we're actually behind the recommended amount, but we can only incrementally increase up to that 10 cent per year. So it's kind of a balancing act. So I don't know that we'll ever actually catch up to the USDA recommended anytime soon, but.
Does it affect what we can serve,
No,
money-wise?
not really.
All right, seek a motion to approve the 2019-2020 lunch, breakfast, and milk prices as presented in the board packet.
So moved.
Second?
A motion and a second, any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion carried. Number 15, discussion and potential action to authorize a resolution and agreement pursuant to the provision of section 67.128A1.2 and 8A Wisconsin statutes for the Port Edwards School District Board to authorize a short-term line of credit with the Bank of Nakusa Port Edwards State Bank.
So, as you know, our history of line of credits is a very short history. It's really been this year, and you have to go back 10, 11, 12 years to get back to the last time there was any short-term borrowing. As we discussed, that's been kind of the result of the fact that our fund balance has been whittled away the last couple of years to deal with our deficit, which goes back to increasing enrollment and hiring staff to deal with the increasing enrollment. So, long story short, our final, well, I shouldn't say it, our final actual aid payment this particular school year will be made on June 17th. That's 35% of our total general aid. It comes in on June 17th. We'll be just shy of $1 million. We'll get a very small aid payment in July that'll actually put our final aid for this school year at just over $1 million payment. Additionally, in August, we'll get about $622,000 in taxes that are actually booked actually in this fiscal year, so the current one. So with that all said, that's our fund balance. But we have payday coming on June 14th. And so that cash flow is really tight going into that time frame. And we want to make sure that our cash flow remains in line. In doing quite a bit more research, the next time, so what we're asking for is a line of credit through the end of October, actually. What we're going to work for is that we may have to use it in June, and then our hope is we're not using it again. We're going to work really hard to make sure the cash flow that we're watching at. Again, we may have to use it, it's set up as a line of credit, but we're hoping not to. Statutorily, the board can authorize a short-term line of credit not to exceed past November 1 of the following school year, or the next school year. That's why we're extending this and saying, okay, if we're going to do this, let's just do it once, be done, get us to the end of October. If we were using it once in June, we pay it off right away, and hopefully we don't have to use it again. But considering the fact that we're not seeing aid payments and tax payments really until the majority of that cash comes in that second half of the school year, we may ask you again in November or at the annual meeting, authorize a one-year line of credit beyond. And again, until we actually see the revenue of the referendum, which will not be until January of next year, and whatnot, the cash flow still is going to be tight. This is not, we're not taking this out as long-term. The district has the money the district has the money coming in to repay this. It's just the timing of it. And in this particular case, June 14th is payday, and June 17th, we'll see almost $1 million hit our books. So it's just tight, and that's really where a lot of the final payments to support staff and things are made. So there's a lot of payments coming out at that point in June. So and we're closing the books on our year. So in terms of spending at that point, so it's really a matter of seeing us through the end of that. And again, we may come back to you for that reauthorization after the annual meeting for the following year. So
we don't have any big projects coming up this summer.
We are not. There's a couple of small things we're planning on trying to get accomplished, but nothing in the 50,000, 60,000, nothing. There's some sidewalk we want to take care of this summer. Lisa and I have been talking about seeing if we can cash flow a school van this summer, get one taken care of this summer, so that going into the fall, we're able to start transitioning how we do some of that student transportation and things with some of our teams and things and activities. So again, though, we're going to approach that with caution. The only other project we have out there, we just have a bit of heating and cooling, and again, nothing in the, we don't have $10,000 worth of projects there. Just, sure the system's running well, so.
What about the front middle school, are we gonna, still waiting for the grants to come in, or are we gonna put some rocks or do something? in front
Oh,
of it?
that money is there, yeah, that money's grant money, so that's not project money in terms of, that money is, as soon as we spend it, we can pretty much claim it and deal with. There is still some of that project money that's out there that we gotta get spent, so. Yeah, but that's reimbursed money, so.
So, seek a motion.
Yeah, seek a motion to pass, that would be our recommendation, so.
As the resolution, as we have a rather lengthy resolution, as laid out in the board packet.
I so move that, approve that, resolution and agreement as laid out in the board packet.
I'll second it.
A motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Motion is approved.
Then I'll
Next item is number 16, review and consider approval of athletic offerings for the 2019-2020 school year.
So the recommendation from the WIA is that the board actually authorized the activities for the next school year and working with them and looking at that. And so I thought a couple of things would be pertinent just to some general discussion about our athletic offerings, and I wanted to provide you a bit of information historically on at least the last few years. Because there are probably a couple of things we do want to have some conversation about and discussion. So I went, Mr. Crandall assisted in getting this information, and I will say it is, the participation numbers are probably close. They may not be all exact due to the vagaries of changes, kids coming in, kids going out, and some of those things, but it is pretty close. And as you can see, you back to 2013-14 and move each year, our fall numbers are pretty consistent. We have almost always 40% participation out of our student body in fall athletics. The lowest year there was at 37% since 2013. So, and that was a couple of years ago. So, in terms of fall numbers, very consistent. Winter numbers have had a little more fluctuation. They've been as low as 21% participation and as high as 30%. It would be nice to work on somehow seeing if we can't increase winter participation and getting more kids involved in the winter. Spring has been fairly consistent. Usually, again, in that 42% has been a very consistent number, but we've been as low as 32 and 37. The last couple of years, as you can see, 42%. So first off, I just wanted to make sure that you were aware. I think the fall and the spring, our numbers have been fairly solid. Part of that has to do, we have cross country in the fall. We've had track and field in the spring, so there's a few more offerings. We're looking to be, in 3 years, 4 years, we'll be sitting at 150 to 160 enrollment. Our lowest number, and what I used here, I had to just pick a number and put it in there in terms of each year, so I picked that third Friday number that we talk about often and put that in there, just so we had a number to go off of. So that's how those percentages are really based. It's off of that third Friday, so I used a consistent number there. But, as Mr. Crandall alluded to, it'd be nice to see 50%. I'd really like to see winter at a consistent 30. I think maybe even a bit higher than that. That would be, that would certainly be something to shoot for. But again, as our enrollment increases, that percentage is just harder to meet as well, because you just have to just get that many more.
The same percentage.
It's the
just
same
bigger
percentage,
numbers.
it's just you gotta
Bigger
get more
numbers,
kids
but
out to
more
get there.
kids that are in there.
Yeah,
Right, more kids are coming here.
yeah.
Well, I mean, if we maintain the percentage, we'll end up with more
We'll end up, yeah, you,
participation,
yep. So
more numbers.
Yeah. To truly change that participation though, it's literally more kids out each year or each season. So, you know, a couple of questions in the winter. We have a wrestling co-op. We have not had a student in that wrestling co-op since, what is it, back to 2014, 15. We had one student at that time.
So do we pay that co-op every year, no matter what?
Yes, we get billed for that every year? Yeah,
Even with no participation?
Well,
or no, we don't, yeah. I don't know that they've billed us, we should be paying it, but I don't know that they've billed us if we've not had kids there. I don't think they have. And that's, really, we haven't paid that? Yeah,
It's like a contract.
yeah. But I think so long as we've not had kids there. Now, here's the kicker going this year forward on at least wrestling. We're one more year in wrestling. Yeah. We've got one more year on the co-op. The co-ops are a 2-year. So we've got one more year on the co-op. So it might make sense that we look at that and say, do we want to continue this as a co-op? The kicker is, if we do get more kids, will there be more interest? That's hard to tell, but you can obviously see that's not been the trend the last few years. The other piece of the winter conversation might be, we do have several students, middle school wise, moving into the high school and elementary who are gymnasts. We have not approached our other locally neighboring high school that offers gymnastics. We have not approached them. I mean, that could be a conversation at some point. Do we approach them and say, is there any interest in a co-op? Now, the interesting note on that, the WIA has made co-oping in gymnastics a little more difficult process, but it hasn't affected Lincoln because Lincoln's not typically co-opted with anybody. It's the mega co-ops out of like Milwaukee and whatnot that they've really gone after in gymnastics to try to pare down the number of those. So that might be some consideration in terms of winter conversations. We couldn't co-op gymnastics for next year, we were beyond that date. But it could be a conversation we could have and say, what would that look like? Would it even be something we'd want to entertain? Do we have enough kids coming through? And again, we're not even confident they'll have that conversation with us, they may not, but we could approach it. Yeah.
Is that a flat fee, or has it been
We don't.
Because they set their fees?
It's negotiated between each school. It really is. It's not a.
So, it's not gonna be 1,000 for gymnastics like it is at.
No, not necessarily.
Okay.
But we don't know what that would be. We have,
And I don't know if those schools charge fees for their kids or won't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right, I mean,
That
we
would
can't-
be-
We can't say having
Yeah.
co-op's $1,000,
Yeah.
that's not true statement.
They're all different.
So really, in terms of gymnastics, we would certainly have to do some discussion and come back to you. So that's nothing you would have to decide tonight. Wrestling is really a 2-year commitment. We're in it next year, whether we like it or not, we're in it. And again, it doesn't hurt us to be in it for another year.
Especially if they're not charging us.
Yeah.
Especially
I think it'd be appropriate, Justin, if participation for wrestling has been minimal or non-existent for
maybe
some
we should be
time
recording
to
that.
make a,
Yeah, we have,
I don't know what you wanna call it, an effort of publicizing, saying, okay, now we've offered this, there hasn't been any participation. In the essence of transparency, make sure that the students, the parents, anybody who would be potentially interested, especially people at the middle school level coming in, if you have interest in this, let us know, because if we don't hear from you, we don't see that there's a development.
It's a good idea.
When this comes up at the end of next year, we're gonna drop it.
I think as of late as 16, 17, we always would put sign-up signs up.
Right.
And the coach from Nakusa would come over and he'd be willing to meet with anybody.
Right.
I think because we haven't sent him anybody, I think he's kind of given up on it.
Well, I
Yep.
understand, I'm
Yep.
just,
Yep.
I wouldn't want a year from now to be coming back to having this conversation and saying, okay, we're not gonna renew our wrestling co-op with Nakusa, And then the next board meeting have an upset parent saying, well, you didn't tell me you were gonna do that, we were expecting this. So just for the efforts of making sure we're communicating clearly, getting that out there. You know, like starting in whatever, January, February, or whatever of next year, saying, okay, here's the plan, what do we wanna do about it? And if you don't hear anything, then you can come back and say, look, we tried.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, I think that would save us that trouble down the road.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna bring up the topic. It
Yep.
might not go over very good, but, so the golf situation, you kept saying it just
And
got.
I was gonna get there.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
just got thrown and thrown up on us.
So golf, when we were trying to offer an opportunity so that there'd be some sort of opportunity at very low or limited cost, and it really, ultimately it has been, it's been a very low and limited cost. We were trying to, Mr. Crandall went to the extent of approaching several people to see if they just want to volunteer to coach. And really, you know, initially maybe just give Carson the opportunity to at least get in the WIA tournament. Because you do have to be sponsored by a school, but you could have one student just enter that. And there's no pre-golf requirement. You didn't have to golf 18 times to get into that. You know, you could walk on the course that day, never golfed, and golf.
So what you think, because we need figures to run the public schools, and it may be a while before we know what those are, if there is additional congestion in Madison. So keep, be attentive, pay attention, and don't be afraid to make a phone call. Represent your kids and the interests of the public schools in Wisconsin.
Gary. Just like to again congratulate the forensics and the solo ensemble kids for doing so well. Forensics especially getting out in front of people is such a great thing for kids, young kids to experience and do well at, which we did. We excelled, our kids did. So that's excellent to see. And again, nice to see the kids here. But that's a lot of courage that it takes and effort, and it will benefit them greatly in the future.
It was a heated up conversation. Obviously, sports is pretty important, I think, from the discussion we just had. So I think it's very important for people to get out there. There's questions, concerns. I mean, get back to the board members. You know, hopefully the surveys, whatever they decide to do, we get the answer so we can move forward. On a brighter note, just want to thank Mrs. P for the concert last night. I think, like I said, everybody that was there, she put on a heck of a show, and really brought maybe the sports and everything out of it and put a good music show together. A lot of people, different instruments, a lot of kids. I think there was 200 and some kids on the stage at one time last night. I don't know, Kyle, is that about right?
Probably not quite that many, but
It was a good number, so it was.
yeah,
So it was pretty cool to see that many kids out there. So I think
close.
leaving on a positive note that there's a lot of good things happening here last night. And the last thing is teacher appreciation. So thank all the teachers for all their hard work and time as the year winds down, so we can move into next year.
Thank you. I just have one on a personal note. I'm a coordinator for the Letter Carriers Food Drive. That happens every year, second Saturday in May, so it's coming up this Saturday. So if you live in Rapids-Port or Nakusa, just leave a can of food by your mailbox on Saturday, and Letter Carriers will pick it up. All the food goes to the Family Center and the Southwood County Pantry Shelf in Rapids.
And hopefully it doesn't rain.
Yeah, we still pick it up even in the rain.
Canned goods, canned goods.
Canned goods only?
Okay.
No,
Well,
pasta,
No,
Canned and dry.
non-perishable.
and none with the expiration date, that's 2013. All right. Next board meetings will be June 12th and July 17th. And with that, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second, all those in favor say aye.
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 We've got some paper there for some
Yes.
folks to
Oh, I
sign.
got a
The only
sign?
person that I don't think has to sign is Leo, but I got lots of stuff for the rest of you.
I think I remember reading that now.
I don't need to tell you.
I don't think, I don't.
Red button?
All right.